Welcome to the Turning Lemons into Lemonade podcast. Each week, your host, Amy Mewborn, business strategist and advisor, will bring you the stories of how successful women entrepreneurs turn their tragedies into triumphs to create the businesses that are changing the world today. And now, your host, Amy Mewborn.
Welcome, Felena. We're so glad to have you here today. I would love to start today by having you tell our listeners a little bit more about how you got started in your business.
Absolutely. Well, I founded Hera Hub, which is a shared workspace and business accelerator. It was designed specifically for female entrepreneurs, although we are inclusive of all genders. Back in 2011, and at the time, co-working spaces were just kind of coming on to the market, but mostly, and still is fairly true today, a lot of spaces are kind of targeted towards a younger tech demographic, if you will. And so the spaces I was looking at for my business at the time, which was a marketing strategy company, I felt like it wasn't my tribe, frankly. I mean, really cool spaces, great people. But, I've gone beyond the point of beer kegs and ping pong tables in my life, and wanted a space for myself and my business at the time that really fostered a sense of support and community. And I couldn't find it, so I basically built my own.
I love that. And you have been a true champion for women. And I love that you say that Hera Hub is not just a co-working space, but it's actually an accelerator for women. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So we have a couple programs at the core level that really foster that acceleration. So we do weekly educational discussions called Business Boosters. We do programs like Writer's Lounge, helping people, kind of hone in on what they need to do around their business related to writing. So it's support, community, accountability. We have gurus who are subject matter experts that donate their time to the community for all kinds of business building areas such as law or social media. And then we have a number of programs that really help folks based on where they're at in their business, whether it's ideation or launch or growth. And some of those growth stage programs lead into our formal business accelerator program, which is a separate nonprofit organization called Hera Labs, and an angel investment group, fondly known as Hera Angels. Very creative we are, which is both education to teach, inspire, and teach more women to become how to become an angel investor, and a conference that we do every year annually at University of San Diego in September called the Hera Venture Summit. And that's really an all-day summit, both bringing female angels together with female founders, teaching women how to position their business for equity raise.
That is amazing. And it's just, there's so many different components to that business. Tell me, how did you kind of come up with the idea of having all of these different divisions?
So it wasn't just me. So Dr. Sylvia Ma, who is my angel investor, is really, as I like to say, the wind beneath my wings, if you will, with a lot of this educational content. So again, she herself is an angel investor, and she's really taken that Hera Angels and Hera Fund brand to, launch and growth stage. And then Hera Labs is really two different tracks, both launch and scale intensive. There are two 12-week programs that curriculum has been designed by the community. So we bring in experts for each area of business building to teach and really give these women a foundation to launch or grow their business. So it's like everything related to co-working. It's everybody coming together in the community and supporting each other. And I've had a tremendous amount of support over the last 7 years, and just incredibly grateful for it.
So what has been the biggest struggle in growing your business so far?
Hands down, commercial real estate.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. As you know well, Amy, it can be a beast. And it's finding the right space at the right price in the right part of town. And that market, has gotten a lot tighter over the last couple years. There are cities now that are just completely cost prohibitive for us to enter without a possibility of a joint venture. So that's what we're looking at right now is, different companies and organizations that we can come in with to kind of help in that piece, if you will, of the platform, the physical platform, and how can we work together to connect women city to city and country to country, giving them that space and platform to do this in an environment that's suitable, safe, supportive, but also brings our community into spaces that need that exposure and, in some cases, foot traffic, if you will.
Yeah. Well, you've really built something that is not something that you see in too many co-working spaces. It's very open and bright and airy and just very, very warm and welcoming. We're going to actually include links to Hera Hub in the show notes, but will you kind of describe what someone would experience in walking into a Hera Hub?
Sure. So first off, we built, really from day one, this concept of spa-inspired shared workspace, I say. And we use the word co-working a lot, but some folks, don't know what co-working is. So sure. I'll just say shared workspace. Yeah. And so when you walk in, there's running water, water features, candles, soft music, nice lighting. It feels, as people will say, 10 times a day I hear this, it just feels good in here is what I hear people say. It's just welcoming. You feel like you're at home, frankly. And that aesthetic is part of the entire space as well. So a lot of attention to detail in regards to where people work and how they work. Each space has a quiet room if somebody's more heads down focused and really just wants, they're there to get work done and they don't want a lot of distractions around them, versus the main co-working space where, there may be conversations and chit chat and things of that nature, which is a lot more open. Like in most of our co-working spaces, the ceilings are higher in the main co-working space and lower in the focused, quiet space because of how we work. When you're in a room with a bit of a lower ceiling, it helps with concentration and focus. And when you're in a room with much higher ceilings, it helps around creativity and inspiration. So I was just looking at some of those details and creating meaningful, intentional workspaces.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about the height of the ceilings, but now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the tribe and the community that you've created at Hera Hub.
Yeah, what we're proud of is we cover pretty much every industry segment. I will say some of our biggest segments, one of our biggest segments is professional services. So folks that are CPAs, attorneys, folks in marketing, anybody who is, servicing other businesses for the most part. We have a good number of nonprofit organizations, quite a few authors, social enterprise, a little bit of biotech, high tech, but mostly more folks that are on the consultancy side of that business. So going back to that professional services segment, coaches, both, personal coaches, business coaches, career coaches. We have pretty much a little bit of everything. So what it does is it builds out a full ecosystem. So some co-working spaces they'll be focused on only tech or only biotech or only creative, which is fine. And there's certainly, lots of opportunity and synergy with folks from the same industry. But our approach is let's get a little bit of everything in here, so members can bring their expertise to the table and teach each other and share that expertise with the community and give back to the community in that way. So pretty much whatever anybody needs, we probably have that expertise if it's not under our roof, it's maybe a member in a sister hub that has that particular expertise that we can ask for feedback and support on.
I will tell you that I'm going to tell the audience that I actually was a member at Hera Hub for a number of years, and one of the things that I found so valuable was the fact that my accountant came from Hera Hub, my attorneys came from Hera Hub, and there's nothing like having a like-minded group of women that really are focused on the community and looking out for each other in a way. And it's amazing how much more real and the support that you can get just by having those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about the worst day you've ever had in your business. I know you've been in business a long time and you've had a lot of stuff happen, but I want you to tell us a story and really make us feel like we're there in terms of the worst thing that happened and then how you turned it around.
Yeah, I think, sadly, I'm going to take it back to commercial real estate. I mean, it happened before I even opened our doors. And I know you've been privy to this journey, Amy, of, there have been several times, but both of them related to being in the 11th hour of, feeling like not feeling like having a contract in hand and delivering a deposit the next day, and then having what you worked for 6 months completely fall apart right in front of you. Yeah. And this is before I even had my first real location open, if you will, and having that happen twice in the first year that I was developing this. I mean, it does make you question, am I on the right path? Frankly, am I meant to do this, or is the universe telling me, look, you need to go in another direction here? So, that was, almost devastating, but, I figured it out eventually and found a landlord that was willing to, quote unquote, take a risk as they saw it on this business and business model. And it was tricky because I was really early in this co-working space segment. Yeah. I mean, estimates right now by some folks that do research in this industry. When I opened, there were said to be about 500 co-working spaces in the U.S., and now there's over 15,000 just 7 years later. So it's a business model that has grown significantly. I still think there's room for growth. Some folks will say, the market is saturated, but I think because there are so many different types of people looking for different sense of community in different spaces, that there will still be options for growth in this market.
I will tell you that you have done such a good job really kind of being at the forefront of the industry. And anytime I meet a woman that has talked about potentially launching a co-working space or has launched a co-working space, they always know exactly who you are in the marketplace and what you've done. How have you gone about kind of putting your brand out in the world? Because I know that you do license Hera Hub. So how are you going about getting it out there?
Yeah, a couple ways. The primary vehicle driver is word of mouth. When you do something that's a little different, a little unique in a different way, people talk about it. And women, when we like something, we talk about it. When we don't like something, we talk about it. So just been fortunate to engage some really amazing women early on, and they've become our brand evangelists. Because we've done something a bit unique. We're the first female-focused space to expand nationally and internationally, and several years before anybody else was looking at that. We've gotten lucky with some media exposure as well. So I think we've probably been in every major business publication. We've been on the Today Show as well. We've been really fortunate to get some good media exposure, and now I'm a regular contributor for Entrepreneur Magazine. We get folks approaching us relatively often saying, hey, we're covering this. And, Amy, I want to mention something because I just had a call with a journalist right before this. I have most recently gotten a lot of questions from journalists of, did you do this because of the Me Too movement? And my answer obviously is no. Number one, I started this, the idea of this 8 years ago, well before this all came to light. And, frankly, it's not, we don't need to be anti-male to be pro-women. It's not this, the mantra at Hera Hub, and I know in other co-working, women co-working spaces, the mantra is, no man's land and, no men allowed. And, that's, I don't think, respectfully, everybody's got their thing, but that is not our mantra. Our mantra is create a safe, supportive, beautiful, collaborative space for women and invite men to sit down at our table on our terms, frankly. They need to be respectful and conscious, and the men that come here and are members or come for meetings are very respectful and conscious. And we need men to be part of this conversation to change anything.
I love that you just brought that up, because my husband Mike and I were having this conversation last night in our backyard over a glass of wine. And just because as women, we're trying to empower other women to have a voice and to take a stand, doesn't mean that we want to bash men or remove men from power themselves. But I love what you just said about coming to the table somehow on our terms a little bit too, because it's always been expected that as women, when we showed up in the business world, that we were going to show up more masculine. And I love that you really are tremendously mindful of creating a community that's respectful of both.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned that you have expanded internationally. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great story. So I was, much like this, a guest on a podcast. This was quite a few years ago, pretty early on into the business. And a woman by the name of Sophia Renemar, just outside of Stockholm, Sweden, happened to hear that podcast. That podcast was a woman in Sedona, Arizona, Lisa Peterson, called The Art of Mindful Wealth. Sophia happened to hear it on her morning run and got excited, Googled us, reached out, and, over the course of due diligence and getting to know her, we ended up signing a licensing agreement there just right outside of Stockholm, Sweden with her. The further irony of this particular incident is I happen to be 100% Scandinavian. I'm Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian, and I've traveled a ton in my life, but never to Scandinavia. And so the fact that this woman who, again, randomly heard me on this podcast, who reached out, and I cannot tell you, and I don't know if this is one of your questions, Amy, but my proudest business moment was the day that I showed up in Sweden to launch Hera Hub Sweden. Never been to the country before, and I brought 6 women for a international strategic planning retreat on that trip with me. I do an annual retreat called Flight Club, as in taking flight as an entrepreneur. And they came along on the adventure with me as well. And just being there in Sweden to launch this business and meet the women there and hear about their hopes and dreams and goals, and to connect them with what we're doing here in the U.S. and have that opportunity to collaborate has been the most incredible opportunity in this business, at least, of just something new, something different, and something completely serendipitous.
That's amazing. So tell me, you are the author of the book, The Flight Club. And one thing that I know about you is that you are an amazing storyteller. So tell us a little bit about the book and who it's written for.
Yeah, so the book is written for women who are, thinking, longing to launch a business, and maybe are looking for a bit of not only inspiration, but also practicality in how to do that. The title of the book is derived from the movie Fight Club with Brad Pitt. The connotation of, being stuck in that gray cubicle and longing for something better, different, meaningful, if you will. And taking flight, as I said before, as an entrepreneur, launching off, so to speak, that cliff, because sometimes it does feel like that. So I tell a bit of my story of reinvention, rebellion, and business launch. And then I tell the story of other women who have been down that road and what they've learned. There's practical exercises in the book for women who are just trying to figure out what type of business they want to launch. They maybe aren't even sure what direction to go in. And then the final part of the book is 17 foundational steps to launch their business. That's an online platform I built called stepstostartup.com.
Love it. So what is the number one resource that you feel has helped you build your business to where it is today?
Oh, so many. I mean, I have to say it's really the community. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this business is I'm surrounded myself with other business owners, and they're my customers, and they're also my inspiration and my sounding board and those that support me. So when we redesigned our website, I hired a member to do that. When I write up a contract, I hire a member to do that. So, just being in this environment with women who are doing great things, they're up to big things, they're doing incredible work, is just gets me bounding out of bed every morning. To be able to be part of that on a daily basis is so incredible.
And what one piece of advice would you give a woman business owner trying to launch or scale a business?
Surround yourself with the right people. It's going to be similar to my last answer is find community. Trying to do it by yourself, for yourself, in a vacuum without support is almost impossible. Women are incredibly good at doubting ourselves. We are incredibly good at questioning ourselves. And we're thinkers, and we tend to overthink things sometimes and rethink them over and over again. And I just had a conversation with one of our members today. She's just in the early stages of starting a subscription box service for sewing in particular. So she sends out a sewing project every other month to folks. And she said, I'm getting all this advice from all these different people, and I'm so confused, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you need to surround yourself with the right people. Don't let your mailman or your aunt or, your neighbor who's never run a business, never been an entrepreneur, try to give you advice or tell you what to do. You have to surround yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs. And wherever you are, find a co-working space to do that. I just cannot emphasize that enough.
That is such good advice, because I think as women, a lot of times we tend to hide behind our computers, or maybe we work from home and we get really lonely. And I will tell you that the days that I would go into Hera Hub, I would often leave with kind of the most inspiration, but also the most creativity, because when you're hanging out with other really amazing women that are doing really amazing things, you can't help but be inspired yourself.
Yeah, it's contagious.
It really is. So tell us, what are you working on next that we should be looking out for from you?
Yeah, it's really focused on expansion. So Hera Hub coming to a city near you. Yeah, just growth. Taking this great business model we built over the last 7 years, and we're always adding things. We're always improving. We're always listening to the community and adding new programming and events and resources and things of that nature. But it really is, I'm razor focused right now on two things: the commercial real estate piece and looking for joint ventures as it relates to that, and finding women in, cities that are sizable. Not to say this couldn't work in a town of 50,000 people, but we are focused first on, usually at least 250,000, if not 500,000 population, and finding that woman in that city that's a leader and a connector and somebody who's passionate about supporting women and entrepreneurship. They don't have to be an entrepreneur themselves. They just have to have a passion for business and helping others, and showing her how to build this community and platform in her city.
Love it. So where can our listeners find you? And we'll include links in the show notes, but for anyone that's in the car or on the treadmill, where can they find you in Hera Hub?
Yeah, so Hera, being the Greek goddess of women, Hera Hub, where it all comes together, hub.com. All our social links are there, and I encourage folks to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm incredibly active there, as well as Twitter.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate it, and you are just a wealth of amazing information, and I don't know anyone in my life that is a better connector than Felena. So thank you for that, and we do appreciate you.
Thank you, Amy.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Turning Lemons into Lemonade, where women go for support and encouragement to hear how other women business owners turn their setbacks into successes to create 6- and 7-figure businesses. We look forward to seeing you next week.